This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, I go to Rav Shabbos Rabbi as we prepare for Shabbos Haggadah on Pesach. Habalinu L'Tova. In the Haggadah we say that aside from the obligation of Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim, there's an additional obligation of B'chol Dar V'Dar Chayiv Adam Lirois Es Atzmai Ki Ilu Hu Yatsa Mitzrayim. Person is obligated to see himself as if he left Mitzrayim. The Gersa of the Rambam is Chayiv Adam Lirois Es Atzmai Ki Ilu Hu Yatsa Ata Mitzrayim. And the question is, why should there be such an obligation if, bottom line is, we're not leaving Mitzrayim, we're in our homes, we're comfortable? Why should we imagine something that didn't happen? The Gemara Pesachim tells us on the Avav, and it's also paskin in the very first siman of Hilchos Pesach, Shoylin v'darshin b'Hilchos HaPesach koydem HaPesach shloshim yom, that we begin to learn Hilchos Pesach before Pesach 30 days. And the question is, why? Why 30 days? It's not Pesach yet. It's not even Nisan yet. Why should you be obligated to learn Hilchos Pesach before? It should say the obligation should be, you should know the halachos from the time that Pesach comes. If it takes you 6 months, you got to start 6 months before. If you already know it, then you don't have to learn. What's the special obligation of 30 days before? Also, the Gemara says in Masechta Rosh Hashanah, Daf Yud Aleph, Machlokes Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Yeshua says, B'Nisan nivra ha'olam, the world was created in Nisan. B'Nisan noldu avos, the avos were born in Nisan. B'Nisan mesu avos, B'Pesach noilad Yitzchak, B'Rosh Hashanah nifkad Asahara, B'Chana, B'Rosh Hashanah yatzu yosin beis ha'asurim, B'Rosh Hashanah batla avoda me'avisin b'Mitzrayim, B'Nisan negalu, Nisan we were redeemed, U'Nisan asidan ligal, and Nisan we will be destined to be redeemed. Question is, why? Just because we were redeemed the first time in Nisan? Why does that mean we'll be redeemed the second time in Nisan? What is one thing? Past performance is not a barometer of future outcome, right? So what? Just because we were redeemed in Nisan. So you say, well, Rabbi, you said in the first year, Rabbi Bechai says in 4 places that Kimeitzeischa Me'eretz Mitzrayim Arena Neflois, that the first Geula was a prototype for the second Geula. That's a good answer also. You could use that answer. But now we're going to explore a new answer, something we never spoke about. Over the years, we've mentioned a number of times a very special sefer, very holy sefer. The name of the sefer is Chesed Avraham, written by the grandfather of the Chidah. The Chidah's grandfather. Right? Many years ago, you were kind enough to get me the entire set of the Chidah, which we made very good use of, Baruch Hashem, and we're going to have him on the sheet. He's coming up. But his grandfather was Rabbi Avram Azulai, and he wrote a Sefer Al Pi Kabbalah. He was the one who said that the city of Tzfas is the holiest city in Eretz Yisrael, and we had a whole series of shiurim on that. He's the one who is Megala that when it comes to Ner Chanukah, there are 15 levels of being Mahadir in the menorah: gold, silver, copper. He has 15. And a number of other chidushim over the years. And here's another one. What he calls Soid Nifla, a wondrous secret, Me'inyan Hashbasas Chametz Va'achilas Matzah, regarding getting rid of chametz and eating matzah. Listen to this. You ready? A short secret. It's such a secret that most people don't know it, but you could tell other people. I let you share the secret, okay? After Klal Yisrael left Mitzrayim be'elach, ma asa HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what did Hashem do? Chashav machshava yislavot yidach meno nidach. He thought, he made plans that no one should go lost. V'tziva liyisrael b'chol shana, and he commanded Klal Yisrael every year, sheyasu zayin yemei Pesach, that we should have 7 days of Passover, b'hashvasas chametz, by not eating chametz, u'v'achilas matzah. What's the soid? What's the secret? V'soid ha'inyan. Here's the secret. The Rebbeinu Shalom wants to make sure that no Jew ever falls to the point of no return. What's the point of no return? The 50th level of Torah. Now I'm going to tell you a little secret. If anybody ever wants to get to the 50th level of Tumah, here's how you do it. You act like a Rasha 400 days in a row. 400. So people say, no problem, it's not too hard. 400 days in a row. Now, where the number 400 comes from, he doesn't say. It could very well be that the number 400 indicates destruction. For example, when Esav came with his cohorts, how many men did he come with? 400 men. When Ephraim paid money to Abraham, Arba Meo Shekel Kesef. 400 signifies closure, the finish, finito, kiloyon. What? That's how much he asked for, right? And Rabbi Sai, where else do we find 400? 400 is the last letter of the Aleph base. Kilayon, it's the end. It cuts everything off. So if you want to fall to the point of no return, you need to act like a Rasha 400 days in a row. V'soid ha'ininu. Ki hayoysa Rasha should be so. The biggest wicked, the most wicked person in Klal Yisrael, afal pisha yarbel of shoya. Even if he's sinful. Ula hariya. Yevshar lichnois behechal hanun shal tuma. He cannot fall to the point of no return. Ad sheyarshia. Until he acts wickedly. Dalid meyos yamim retzufim zu acharzu. You can't take a break. No breaks. No slackening off. Don't say, today I want to act good. Today I'm in a good mood. No. 400 days in a row. Says the Chesed Avram, Uv'chol shana v'shana, shloishim yom koydem ha-Pesach, 30 days before Pesach, Hashem yisparach oisel hem l'Yisrael masa panim b'roiv chasadav. God shows us favoritism. U'maschil lahoitzi nafshoisa meheichalois hatuma ma'at ma'at. And He starts to take our souls out of the gates of Tumah. Shir chelek echad mishloishim b'chol laila. 1/30 of how much you've slipped every night. So let's say we fall into 49.99999. Nu, Rabbi Yosef, divide that by 30.
1.66667.
Okay. So that means every day, starting 30 days before Pesach, every day the Rebbeinu Hashem takes us 1.667 gates out of the Shari Tumah. So that by the time you get to the day of Pesach, by the time you get to Bir Chametz, you're already at the threshold of Kedusha. You're ready, you're clean. You're clean. Ba'oifen, shebelel Bir Chametz, kol poishe Yisrael, oimdim bepesach, heichal achitzoin, me'anun, shir, chilek echad mishloishim, mishir hakamois, shahayu nechnosim leil shloishim v'yachas koidem ha'pesach. Gulp, that was a mouthful. What does that mean? The night of Bir Chametz, every sinner stands at the threshold of the outer gate of the 50 gates. You only have 1/30th to go. In other words, now you only have 1 day to go. So you only have on you 1/30th of Tumah from how much you've fallen. Uvalel Pesach einam nechnasim klal ve'ikar. The night of Pesach, you're clean. You have no Yetzer Hara. The kulam paturim, you're all pater, ubnei chayrin, you're all free. Whatever tumah you had on your neshama is removed. In other words, every day, as you get closer to Pesach, starting from 30 days before, you move up 1/30th of tumah. The gazra chachmasa yisbarach liyos cheiros nafshois b'shloishim yom ma'at ma'at. Why slowly? Because if it would happen immediately, the malach, the samach mem would get very nervous. He'd be makachik. This way he does it very slowly. Rebbe Hashem does it in the malach hamaves. The samach mem doesn't even realize, and he's not makachrik. Ad kan divrei hasoid shel Chesed Avram. That's the secret of the Chesed Avram. That for 30 days before Pesach, the Rebbe Hashem removes you 1/30th of your tumah until the night of Bir Chametz. You only have 1/30th left. You come to the Seder, you're sitting there with your kittel, you're clean as a whistle, or any other analogy you would like to use. Okay? So that is the secret of the Chesed Avram. Comes the Chida in a very special work. The name of the Sefer is Leiv David. And the reason why this is a very special Sefer to me is because in 1945, after the Holocaust, there were no Sfarim left in Europe. And my Zayda published the first 2 Sfarim in Europe, and one of them was the Evan Shleim of the Gra, and one of them was the Leiv David of Chida. This Sefer. I have at home a Leiv David with a Green Army copy, which was published in the DP camps.
Wow.
With a stamp on it, American Joint Distribution Committee.
Wow.
I should have brought it today.
That's a special schus.
Yeah. So I think Siyata Deshmaya have a chus to teach from the Sefer. This is from the set that you got me, but this is what the Chidah says in Parak Lamed. Okay, he quotes his grandfather, and his grandfather was a Chesed li Avram. He says, look at number 5. It is appropriate to remember Masha Kasav Mar Zikainenu Harav Chesed li Avram. What my grandfather Chesed Avram writes, and he quotes the Chesed Avram word for word. Let's go to the next paragraph. Says the Chidah, based on this, those with eyes should prepare themselves for Hashem. The Yetiv Masav, and start making yourself better. Lamed, 30 days, Kaidam la Pesach. In other words, if the Rebbe Hashem is giving you such siyata d'shmaya, where He's cleansing your neshama for 30 days before Pesach, you have to take advantage of it. Uvifrat belel haskadesh chag, especially the night of Pesach. Ya'orer libay, arouse your heart. V'rayoynai, arouse your thoughts. Ki halayla hakadosha hazu, this holy night, b'chasad of arabim, in Hashem's great mercy, Haitzianu mishibur hasitra achra, God has removed you from the clutches of the Asahara. Not your forefather, you, this year, today, your neshama has been removed from your personal exile of the forces of evil. V'haisa mesila, and is now on the straight path, lidavik ba'yisbarach v'tayrasai, to cling to Hashem. V'hu be'etzem ma'sha'amar chazal, this is the meaning, says the Chidah, based on what my grandfather says, this is the meaning of the statement, chayiv adam lirois es atzmai Keilu huyatza miMitzrayim. It's not, let me imagine I'm wearing those, shoes with the leather straps that go up to your knee, and the Mitzrayim are hitting me. That's not what it means. It means this year, 2015, Tavshin Ayin Hey, 30 days ago, I was completely in the clutches of the Asahara, and over the last 30 days, Rebbe Hashem slowly is cleaning me, purifying me, allowing me to exercise my own discipline and self-control until this great night. Rebbe Hashem has taken me out and given me the opportunity for spiritual freedom and not be addicted to the desires of the Asahara.
Doesn't require any action in our part without tshuva, just like this, to be forgiven. Clear.
Just like that. That's why in the Seder we say, the Seder of Pesach, it's very interesting. The rest of the year, there's no such thing as Seder. Shavuos, there's no Seder. Sukkot, there's no Seder. All of a sudden, Pesach, there's Seder, but the problem is the Seder is backward. You should know, whenever you say something, it's always the opposite. Like, you ever look in a Chumash, it doesn't say Rashi on top, because of course it's Rashi on the mount. The only time it ever says Rashi are the few times it's not Rashi. In Divrei Hayomim, Rashi. Why? Because it's not Rashi. If you look at Rashi in the back of the Rif, Rashi, right? It's not Rashi. Whenever it says Rashi, it's not Rashi. But it's a limud for life. That means the printers, it happens to be the only time they write Rashi on the commentary is when it happens not to be him. Divrei Hayomim and on the Rif. Rashi didn't write a commentary on the Rif. Other people took from Rashi's commentary and they put it on the Rif. Right? The Malbim's Haggadah, right? The Malbim never wrote a Haggadah. Right. It's a thing that when you try to, so you have the night of the Seder, you have Seder, you should know this Seder is out of Seder. Why? Because usually, Kadesh Orchatz, pink fakert, before you sanctify yourself, you got to cleanse yourself. Sur Meira, Virachatzt, Vasacht. First you wash something, and then you put on perfume. First you wash it, and then you paint. First you wash it, and then you shine it. The night of the Seder, just the opposite. Kadesh! First you sanctify yourself, even though you're a Memtesh Shari Tuma, and you're Oivei Avodah Zarah, nothing, the night of the Seder was completely Isarusa de La'ila. Rebbe Hashem gave us everything as a freebie, with no act on our part. Then once you got it, as easy as it comes, that's as easy as it goes. That's why you have 49 days to make sure you hold on to it. But there is a special idea that the night of the Seder is a different Seder. Instead of Orchatz Kadesh, by the way, but if you look in the Siman on the Seder, it's the only siman with a Vav. You don't say Moitzi U Matzah. You don't, but all of a sudden, the two things that are backward, Kadesh or Chatz, to teach Dafka, it's backward. That's what the Avnei Nezer says. Kadesh or Chatz. And this is without any Isarusa del Eila. Nothing we did. Ve'at Eiroim ve'eria. We had no Zchusim. And the Rebbe Shem came down and he was, I want to tell you something else. I forgot to tell you by the first year on the Haftarah of this week's Parsha. Shabbos HaGadol, yeah? What does that have to do with Pesach? Because it says the word Gadol. That's the whole thing? Come on. Gadol. Oh, Gadol, Gadol, yeah. That's the whole thing? You're telling me that whoever's Masagin the Haftarah was like a game? Gadol, Gadol. Gadol, Gadol.
Big drushes.
Doesn't say a word about Pesach in the whole Haftarah. Now, one word. I think this is the answer. You ready? We didn't get up to it yet. I ask you a question. What does Pesach mean? Passover. Nice pshat, beautiful pshat. Yeah?
Pesach.
What does Rashi say on Chumash? You ever hear of Rashi? We just mentioned Rashi. What does Rashi say? Rashi says, Ufasachti aleichem. Rashi says, V'chamalti rachmanos. That's what Rashi says. So Rashi and Chumash. The Yom Tov of Pesach is the Yom Tov rachmanos. Why? Because we were Eiroim ve'eria, we had no Zechusim, we were Memtesh Shari Tuma, Halalu Oivdei Avodah Zarah Halalu, and Rebbe Shem, he was Pasach ala Pesach. He jumped over the need for us to do anything first. He jumped, right? When it says he jumped over the door, the Maggid Mezrich says, normally you have to open the door and let the Rebbe Shem in. Rebbe Shem says, you do something, and then Hashem jumped over that step. He said that on Pesach you don't need to open the door. I'm coming in. I'm coming in. So it was bisarusa delayla, and this is the meaning. That
4 days is Nefesh. There is something.
Hashem had to give it to us, but we didn't have it. We were Aaron the area.
4 days.
So says the Chida. This is the meaning. B'chol dar v'dar chayiv adam l'uris es atzma ki'ilu hu yatsa mi Mitzrayim. He says, "Uvefrat v'imkein have ki'ilu anachnu yatzanu miMitzrayim uvefrat ki ikar neshamas Yisrael shishim ribai gam nishmaisenu hoysehi b'Mitzrayim b'shibud kasha." Our souls were in Mitzrayim, and Hashem took us out. Umeduktuk b'yoyser al pi hakdama hanizkar ki mamish anachnu atzmenu hayinu mishubadim b'sitra achra. We ourselves, we were subservient to the forces of evil. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, every year He takes us out a little bit, until the night of Yetzias Mitzrayim, we're all B'nei Chayrim. This is the meaning of Chayiv Adam L'Uris Atzma Kil Yatzias Mitzrayim. Says the Chida, now I understand another Chazal. You know why you have to start learning Hilchos Pesach 30 days before? You say, what's 30 days before? Either, if you need to learn it 10 months before. If you don't need to learn it, you don't have to learn it. What's the union of the 30 days? You don't have it by any other Yom Tov. The answer is, because Yetzias Mitzrayim begins 30 days before. 30 days before Pesach, the Rebbe Shem begins to cleanse the neshama. How much? 1/30 of its total tumah. And that's the union of learning of Hilchos Pesach 30 days before. And says the Chida, based on my grandfather, I understand something else. And that is why Chazal say, Benisa nigalu, Benisa nasidan ligal. We asked, past performance is not an indicator of future outcome. Everybody knows that. The answer is no. But since every year, 30 days before Pesach, Rebbe Shem starts to cleanse us and starts to purify us, it's almost a guarantee that this is the most opportune time the entire year for the Rebbe Shem to redeem us. Okay, I want to share with you another thought connected to what we just said. And that is, there's a famous comment of the Arizal that someone who is careful from eating a mashahu of chametz, muftach loy, the Ber Heitev quotes it, and some are not happy he quotes it like that he won't sin the whole year. The Arizal says, you can look at it, it's quoted in the Tshuvas Chasam Sofer and Choshen Mishpat. It's quoted in the Ber Heitev, Siman Taf Mem Zayin, I believe it's Sivkat and Aleph, that anyone who's careful from eating a mashu of chametz is a guarantee not to sin the whole year.
Not from eating, not having the house.
Not from eating. Not from eating mashu chametz. Muftach lesh you won't have. Why not? What's the pshat in that? Says the Avnei Nezer that if someone takes an oath that he won't sleep for 3 days, it's not effective. Why? because you can't go 3 days without sleeping. If someone takes an oath that they won't eat for 7 days, it's not effective, because you can't go 7 days without eating. What's the food of the Asahara? The food of the Asahara is chametz. Like the Gemara says, Umi ma'akev sa'ar shaba'isa. What stops us from serving Hashem is the Asahara, which is analogous to chametz. Chametz is what feeds the Asahara. So says Avnei Nezer, if you're careful not to have a mashu of chametz over Pesach, that means you're going 7 days at least without chametz. You're going to starve the Asahara. You starve the Asahara, you kill the Asahara, he's dead. You're not going to sin the whole year. That's the meaning of the Arizal. That anyone who's careful not to have a mashu of chametz, he's starving the Asahara over the course of 7 days. By the way, so it comes out according to the Arizal, the Bnei Chutz La'aretz are better off than the Bnei Eretz Yisrael. Because the Bnei Chutz La'aretz have 1 day of Yom Tif without a Asahara. Right? And in Eretz Yisrael they got to go straight back to the chametz. But okay, so this fits in very well. So if you wanted to know what time of the year are we most purified, are we most cleansed from the Asahara, it's Yemei Pesach. 30 days before the Rebbe Shalom takes our neshamas out, 1/30th, until you get to the night of the Seder, you're Bnei Chayrin. 7 days you go out, you go without chametz, you're starving the Asahara, you're murdering, you're killing the Asahara. But I had a little trouble with this, based on a sefer that I got very recently. The name of the sefer is Darkei HaTshuva. Not Darkei Tshuva, not Sharei Tshuva, Darkei HaTshuva. Who wrote the Darkei HaTshuva? Rabbi Eliezer Nachman Pua. Say, huh? Who's that? Rabbi Eliezer Nachman Pua was a Talmud Muvak of the Ramami Pana. And he says the following in Perek Shmini. Okay? I heard this from Rabbi Avram Shor. The Darkei HaTshuva writes, it says, Chametz bizmanoi asur b'mashahu. Gemara Pesachim Daf Lamed. What do you mean chametz bizmanoi asur b'mashahu? Everybody knows chametz is asur for 7 days. What do you mean chametz bizmanoi? It should say chametz bizman isurai. Says the Talmud the Ramami Pano. Chametz is a reference to Yitzhahara. Says the Darkei HaTshuva, you know, the Yitzhahara has good days, bad days, days on, days off. Some days he's firing on all cylinders. What days of the year is the Yitzhahara the strongest? Pesach. And therefore, since the Yitzhahara is strongest on Pesach, everybody wants to know, well, if chametz represents the Yitzhahara, then you shouldn't eat chametz the whole year. Right? Very simple, right? Why is chametz so severe? It represents the Yitzhahara. Well, then you should never eat chametz. So the Darkei HaTshuva says, well, we're dafka makbid on it on Pesach, because on Pesach the Yitzhahara is the strongest he is the whole year. Well, how does that fit into everything we just learned today? We just said there are 30 days before Rebbe Shalom is cleansing us from the Tumah until we get to Pesach, and he's at the threshold of Kedusha. And then we starve the Yitzhahara. So what does it mean he's strongest on Pesach? It says the Darkei HaTshuva, the Rebbe Shalom does us a tremendous chesed to asr chametz on these days, because otherwise the Yitzhahara would be out of control.
What makes these days the Yitzhahara to be so strong? What's so unique about these days?
Well, the pasuk says
He should be weak. If we don't eat, right, we don't think about him, other than the fact that we have the taiva maybe. But
there's a pasuk of Yemei Ra. The Yemei Ra, right? It says Lama Ira B'Yemei Ra. Says the Darkei HaTshuva, that means there are certain days that the Yitzhahara is stronger than other days, and the Yemei Ra, he suggests, are Pesach. So how does this fit into what we're saying? Not sure. I'll tell you two thoughts. Number one, the Yitzhahara, according to the Darkei HaTshuva, has the potential to be strongest on Pesach. He has the capacity, he has the ability to be strongest on Pesach. And that is why the Ribbon Shalom must cleanse us so much in the days preceding Pesach, and we have to be careful from chametz on Pesach, because if not for all of this, the Asahara would be out of control, because these are the days that he's the most active, he's the strongest. Why he's the most strongest, we don't know why. But if not for all of these hachanas and all these preparations, the Asahara, we would be fodder and feast for the Asahara. But it could be that there's an idea that whenever something is about to be extinguished and about to go out, it always exerts the strongest force, like a candle. As it's about to go out, it flickers, it gives its last gasp, right? That's why here, we're in the Ikvus of the Mashiach, the Yetzirah, the Taivas of the Yetzirah. In one day, the Yetzirah does more today than he did in hundreds of years, in previous generations. Why? It's his last gasp. Because he knows what's coming, Mashiach is coming, Asahara HaKadosh Baruch Hu Lishcha to say Yetzirah. So it's the last gasp, Yetzirah. So L'maisa, the Chesed Avram says that if you go 400 days consecutive as a Rasha, you're going to fall to the point of no return. So now a person just went 365 days without Yetzirah. The Rebbe Hashem says, what are we going to do? We got to save Klal Yisrael. So Rebbe Hashem helps us along. So now this Yetzirah is trying his hardest to get us to number 400. This is his last attempt. This is his last chance. So he exerts the most influence on Pesach. But Rebbe Hashem protects us. Rebbe Hashem gave us a Isser of Chametz b'Mashehu. And if we have Siyata D'Shmaya to be Zar from Chametz b'Mashehu, we will be protected from Avera the whole year. Wish you all Agun Shabbos. And Rav Chanan B'Kash.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.